Hello, friends. Sometime back, I had put a video on internet about Aurangzeb, but many people have felt that the video needed a little bit of elaboration. So I am adding this shorter video to elaborate some other points. The point I make here is that I do not have any objection to Aurangzeb, but I have serious reservations. There is definitely no doubt about the fact that Aurangzeb presided over a very large empire. But is there something for which he should be lauded? In the first place, he had not put that large empire together. He had inherited it. And if the historical analysis is any guide, then he only weakened it, the empire, with his way of working, with his style of administration, and with his attitude towards especially his sons. He ensured that this empire would not last long. But there are other points about Aurangzeb too. Aurangzeb was a mean person. Aurangzeb was also cruel. Aurangzeb, as an administrator, was inefficient. The greatest inefficiency there is that more than half of his 48 years of rule he spent in one particular section, the South India, trying to overcome Shia kings, Muslim Shia kings there. And with that, he undermined the whole administration. He undermined the job which he had to discharge as a king, and he undermined the very basis on which that huge empire which he inherited had been put together. And Aurangzeb was unjust. He was unjust to his father. He was unjust to his brothers. He was unjust to his nephews, and he was unjust to his sons. There could be a justification for whatever he did to Dhara Shikwa, because Dhara Shikwa was his contender, and he had to take action against him, do whatever to acquire the empire. If acquiring empire is a very laudable objective, but for a king, it is an objective. And so whatever he did to Dara Shikwa, it may have a justification, but there is absolutely no justification for whatever Aurangzeb did to his father, to his nephews, to his brothers. His brothers, two brothers, he had them on his side when he fought Dara Shikwa, and then he did away his brothers too. And if this was how he dealt with his own family, then we can imagine how unjust, how arrogant, and how steamrolling he would have been for all the people, for the others who did not have his sympathy, who did not have access to his loved ones, or who could not somehow or the other get his sympathy. That's the point I did want to make, and probably in that short video, this point was not elaborated well. Now, Aurangzeb is praised for being a good Muslim, for praying 5 times, for doing that copying of Quran, for his livelihood, though because I have studied him for to some extent, and I find that under the facade of this austerity, there were great extravagances. Lakhs of rupees in 17th century were spent on marriages, on other functions, and yet these things are being touted that he lived an austere life. But then This is the life a Muslim is supposed to live. A Muslim is supposed to pray 5 times namaz. He is supposed to live in a very simple way. And somebody, if a Muslim is living in that manner, in the ordained manner, which is deemed appropriate for a Muslim, then it is a duty he was performing, not something extra. And now, if the jurists of Islam, if Muslims think that a king does not do it, and so a king who does so has to be lauded, then probably it does not deserve laudation. But what is needed here is probably a look on the principles which they themselves accept are not practicable. So that apart, the point is that being a praying Muslim, being an austere Muslim, is being okay. Let's say he was observing the laws and ordinations of Islam, but there is nothing great about it, and there is nothing to be, nobody is to be prayed. There are thousands of people in our country today, and there were probably more people in 17th century when he lived, who performed namaz, of 5 time namaz, who were more just, who lived in austerity, and who were more truthful there. So I do not think that Muslims have any reason to laud this king. On the other hand, Hindus have every reason to despise that monarch. He ruled over a large kingdom, no doubts about that. He was an autocrat, no doubts about that. He was a mighty king, definitely, because he ruled for 50 years. Still, no doubts about that. But that does not make that Aurangzeb a great king, and it does not earn any laudations for Hindus from non-Muslims' mind. It's not only Hindus. He was equally harsh towards Shias. And for Hindus, there were definitely very pointed and precipitate complaints against Aurangzeb. He destroyed temples. He banned construction of temples, and he also banned repairs of temples. And he imposed jizya on Hindus. On the point of jizya, I have seen some ridiculously justifications. I have seen, yes, I must repeat this. I have seen some ridiculous justifications. One learned person, Ram Punyani, said in a video that jizya was only 1.25%, whereas zakat was 2.5%. So there was less on Hindus. This is absolutely rubbish. Jizya was a humiliation tax imposed on Hindus for being Hindus. Why? Muslims, when they pay zakat, they earn merit. They earn religious merit. And it is always voluntary. There is no equating jizya with zakat. That's the first point. Secondly, jizya is not a simple tax. Many people translate jizya as poll tax, but it is not poll tax. It is a humiliation tax, as I have mentioned in that previous video as well, and I shall be elaborating it in a future video, I hope, that jizya is not an ordinary tax. It's not a poll tax. It's not a tax per person, but it is a tax to be levied on non-Muslims and to put them in their place. So Hindus had a justification to hate, to criticize, to demonstrate with this, with Aurangzeb, who was the king of India, of course, and they had a due cause. So had Shias, because he spent more than half of his rule fighting against them. Sunnis may be happy that he did enforce force them rather to come together to remove their own differences. In fact, that ironically, is the only good thing he did, but he did not seem to have succeeded very well in their this Alamgiri fatwas. They are not universally accepted. He did try to produce a book of rational fatwas, but that was only for Sunni Muslims. For all others, there was nothing in it. So one may not have any objection to Aurangzeb, but there is enough ground, enough reason for people to criticize him, and there is very little reason for Muslims to stand up for him. Because if anything, if he did have some merit, it was he was practicing the elements of Islam, which everybody is supposed to do. So it was his duty by Islam. But he was unjust. He was cruel to his family. He would have been very arrogant, very opinionated, and he would not have been very considerate towards other people. He lived, and if he lived a fully austere life, that was again, he was following the tenets of his religion. That is the simple duty. There is no greatness in it. But he was definitely being vindictive against Shias. That would not go to his credit. And he did persecute Hindus. He tried to convert Hindus. He may not have. Some people have been arguing that had he wanted to destroy temples, there would not have been even a single temple. As a matter of fact, there are no temples, no earlier temples in the whole of North India. That is a fact. And secondly, if a person does not go all tongs against temples, does not convert everybody, but converts only a few selected people and then destroys some selected temples, he has still been converting people and he has still been destroying temples. So the very point is, as a king, he probably was a product of his times, though a very arrogant one, a mean one, an unjust one, a cruel one, and a very inefficient king in the family, which had produced some great, very good administrators before him, and he ruled over it. Well, it was a time, kings, autocrats, it was a time of autocrats. They ruled kingdoms, they had huge, they were the law, they were the persecution, they were the judge, they were prosecution, they were everything. That was the time. Nobody can object to it. But nobody should laud this particular personage who was not even a good king. That's it. Thank you very much.